welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Naomi Comfort, and Naomi is an attorney. Her law firm is the Silicon Valley Elder Law, called Silicon Valley Elder Law, sorry. Naomi has taught continuing education courses on fiduciary income taxation and other subjects to CPAs, attorneys, and the public. Naomi and I have actually conducted some of these seminars together, and she has been a guest before on this show, and she always does a great job as a guest. So Naomi, thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Today, Naomi and I are going to be talking about financial scams and elderly victims, and we're just going to be hitting some highlights here. This is actually a complex area, of course, but it's an important area for families, and so we're going to sort of be riffing around this topic today, but we really want you to get tax and legal advice and to talk about these matters with your family attorney. So with that, let's get into this a little bit, Naomi. So we've heard stories about elderly people that have become victims of financial scams. Is this really a big issue? How concerned should we be?
It's huge. It's huge. Billions and billions of dollars every year are lost by seniors to scammers. Millions of seniors have been victimized. Only 1 in 25 actually report the incidents to police. So what we know of is much smaller than what's actually going on out there.
So I'm going to bring up one that you haven't even really, I don't think, put on your list, but I'm going to throw it out there. Because we've had some of it, it's been local, but also, nationally, and that is the area of people handling investments and approaching seniors. And I've talked about this before. You and I have had some conversations and seminars that we've talked about handling retirement accounts, for example. And typically there's a lot of money in these accounts. And people have a way of finding out about it. And so I always tell people that this is like you've got a great big bullseye that's on your back.
It's true. The seniors do have a great big bullseye. And that great big bullseye says, I'm a Depression era or close to that time mentality in the way I think. I have got a nest egg secured to take care of me. I probably have a house that's paid for. I probably have retirement assets. I'm worried about how I'm going to make my money last. I trust people are good, and I love my family. And I don't want them to think I can't take care of myself. You put all these things together, all these different pieces, and it creates what the scammers consider a low-risk crime. It's a very, very low-risk crime. Only a tiny fraction of these criminals are actually found and brought to justice. Most of this is just going on, and the best we can do to protect our families is actually to educate them, help them learn how to defend against these criminals. So yes, they do have a big bullseye on them.
Yeah. So, you think about, I guess the biggest case is Madoff.
Yeah.
And here's a man who, as I recall, he was actually like the head of NASDAQ at one time or something like that, or very highly placed in some way that he was
Highly
so
regarded,
influential.
Yeah. Yes.
And of course people trusted him enormously, but he was paying out unusually high returns to some people related to their investments, and so enticing others to sign up because of course they wanted to get these high returns. And yet, then what happens, of course, is the whole thing just went up in smoke because it's a huge Ponzi scheme.
Right, right. So that's the more unusual circumstance, right? Madoff was actually successful in getting huge organizations to invest in his Ponzi scheme. So it did become this multi-million-dollar behemoth.
Yeah.
But it's the smaller transactions that are going on every day all around us that are really bilking the seniors out of billions of dollars, and where the seniors, in my opinion, are the most at risk.
Well, before we move on from that, I do want to mention there was a case actually that just came up like in the last week here in Santa Clara County.
Okay.
And again, this is July 22nd, folks, 2014. I can't remember the name of the particular person, but basically what he was selling was some sort of a mortgage scheme. Okay, so, it felt like, it was safe to get involved in this thing.
Right.
And then basically what happened, of course, is that the equity behind it evaporated, and then he was reshuffling again, trying to get money in to pay out what was supposed to be distributed to the other people. It was the same thing then. He was creating this Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So these things may not be as unusual as people might think. And I think a big part of it is, again, people are not accustomed to talking about their finances with their children.
It's true. It's very private.
And again, like you said, I don't want to convey the impression that I'm not capable of handling my affairs, but maybe I really do need some help. So I don't know if you could maybe at least make some sort of comment about that or what have you.
So oftentimes what could happen, for example, is that an elder does some shopping online. They're getting phone calls. There's whole sets of telemarketing scams. There's whole sets of email scams. There's whole sets of IRS scams. There are scams about deeds. There was a recent scam in San Diego having to deal with property taxes, and some outfit was sending out letters to senior homeowners offering for a fee to appeal the assessment on their property so that they could get their property taxes lowered. Mm-hmm. But again, it was a scam, and the elders would fill out the form. It looked like the paperwork that was sent out looked like it came from the county. It looked like it came from the county, and it said, pay us $100 or $200, small bits and pieces. Yes. But it adds up when you've got 20, 50,000 people that are sending that money in, and you're sending in a fee that's supposed to be used to reevaluate the assessment on your house and reduce the assessment on your house, which was consistent at the time with what was going on with the real estate market. Values had gone down, and but instead people were paying the money and nothing ever happened. Whoever it was
disappeared.
Ran off with it, right? So you can get very official looking documents in the mail or as an email in your inbox, or something very official as sounding as a phone call. So there's a current scam where somebody calls and claims that they're from the IRS, that there was an error on your tax return, and you need to immediately pay X number of dollars of back taxes that you owe, and if you don't immediately pay it, they're going to seize your assets, they're going to take your driver's license, you're going to be arrested, you're going to go to jail, all these horrific things, and you need to immediately wire the money to the government. The IRS doesn't operate that way. Mm-hmm. The IRS does not get on the phone and call you to say there's a deficiency.
Yeah, there's a lot of mailings that happen before something like that happens. And there are procedural things that have to happen
right.
first. Yeah.
As our senior population, typically I find my clients are very worried about paying all their bills, and they pay a bill the minute they get it. And so if they get a call from somebody saying they're an IRS agent and that there's a mistake on the tax return, immediately the elder feels guilty. Oh no, I misunderstood something. Oh no, I didn't fill the form out correctly. Oh no, my family's going to find out. I need to take care of this. And they're being threatened that these bad things are going to happen to them. They often will cave and just authorize the transaction and give them the account information to wire the money, or a credit card, so it can get collected by these people. Then on top of that, what happens is now they've fallen victim to a scam. There are outfits out there that collect the contact information of people that have fallen victim to scams and resell it to other scammers. So now they're on the scammers list.
Oh my gosh.
Of good victims.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so once you've been scammed once, you are likely, much more likely, to be scammed again than somebody who hasn't been scammed. It's a very dangerous and difficult situation, and it comes from so many different angles. You can't just tell somebody, if somebody calls and says they're from the IRS, don't send them money, right? You can't just respond to a specific thing. You have to come up with a global way of handling requests for money, requests for personal financial information.
So one thing that occurs to me, again, I mean, these people, they've been accustomed to sort of handling things all their life, but maybe what they need to do, especially maybe if they're not so comfortable dealing with their family, which, well, and sometimes you don't have a family member that can really help you.
Right.
Is just to get help. I mean, go to an attorney like yourself or to a CPA like me, and okay, I have this person who says that they're from the IRS. They say that I owe this money. What should I do? And the first thing that you or I would do is say, well, before you do anything, how about we call the IRS and just make sure that they're telling you the truth?
Right. So, as people age, they become less adept at evaluating the truthfulness of these situations, and they're less on top of all the different things going on. So they do become much more likely to be victimized. We talk about these criminals as though they are third parties, outside people, but it is more often than not family members that are scamming the elders out of money by taking advantage of a frail family member, helping themselves to money, helping themselves to checks, taking the elder to an unsuspecting attorney who drafts an estate plan in favor of the evil grandchild or whoever it is that's brought the elder in. There's lots of things going on. We'll have adult children move back in with their parents and be abusive, verbally and emotionally abusive, in order to manipulate them so that they can live there for free, so that they can get the parent to pay for things for them, all sorts of things. And it is very difficult for the elder to stand up to a child who appears to be in need, right? The parents want to they love their children. We all love our children, right?
Yes.
No matter what they've done and what they're going through. We try to help, and we don't want to see our children thrown out on the street and that type of thing. But I've actually had to I've helped clients to kick their children out when it's necessary, and help them come up with a plan to better protect themselves from a lecherous child who is inappropriately taking advantage of a situation.
Yeah. Before you and I started this interview, I talked about a situation that I actually had to step in as a trustee. It wasn't for a family member in this case, although, it was for the mother of a family member, a brother-in-law. And in this particular case, it turned out that, grandchildren and one of her sons had access to her checking account, and so they were writing fortunately, they weren't writing big checks to themselves, but nonetheless, they're writing checks for themselves,
Right.
to get some spending money. And so, I mean, as the trustee, the first thing I had to, and maybe that would have even been okay with her, if she had been in a good
In her right
in a
mind to
good
be able to
condition. But
make that
but
decision.
for me, it was okay. I'm the trustee now. I have to take control of the situation. Okay, you guys, party time is over.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, it's time.
Or they'll take advantage of the fact that the elder's memory is not so accurate anymore, and maybe they will have talked with the elder. I had this case actually. The person talked with the elder and got the elder to agree to lend him $10,000. So the elder went down to the bank, withdrew $10,000 to loan to this person. A couple days later, the criminal said to her, remember you said you were going to loan me $10,000. When are you going to do that? Went down to
Right.
the bank again, took out another $10,000, gave it to her, gave it
Uh-oh.
to the abuser.
Uh-huh.
In all, about $600,000 was obtained by just continuing to ask for the same money over and over again, and the elder did not remember that she had already given the money to the person.
Yeah.
So it comes in all sorts of
I had
forms
something like
and
this happen with a
variations.
client a long time ago, and I'll just say, I was kind of shocked that the bank in this particular case wasn't very helpful. They were mostly trying, because she said, "Where did this money go?" And they weren't really able to explain. And
Well, banks are
so-
now mandated reporters
Yeah.
of suspected financial elder abuse, and
Yeah.
I've had clients whose accounts have been frozen,
Yeah.
which can be difficult to deal with afterwards, to get them unfrozen and moving forward. But the accounts have been frozen in order to protect the assets until somebody can figure out what's going on and who's actually entitled to manage those funds and those accounts. I do want to point out a couple of newer scam type things that
Okay.
that are out there that we should all be aware of and make sure our family members are aware of. One is it is prescription fraud.
Prescription fraud.
So if you watch the news at all over the last 5-10 years, prescription costs have skyrocketed.
Right.
And people can actually order their medications from out of country on the internet and have them delivered for a fraction of the cost of actually getting something here in the US. So a lot of people have started actually ordering their prescriptions online. There are companies out there now that are fraudulent, that are selling medication that has
Isn't-
nothing in it.
It's no real. It's not real
Okay,
medication.
so
It's
they're just sending
phony
you,
stuff.
sending you pills that either have nothing or don't have the active ingredients or have the wrong ingredients in them. So
Yeah.
that's something to be really careful of. There's a certification process that the pharmacies go through to sell things online. I don't happen to have the name of that certification process, but don't buy or allow your relatives to try to save $10 or $20 or $200 by going through these non-certified organizations, because it's most likely a scam. So it's not just prescriptions, though.
that
Like
can
what your
actually be
doctor,
dangerous. I mean,
yes, it's very dangerous, right? You're supposed to be on your whatever
Coumadin
medication,
or whatever.
right? And instead you're taking sugar pills. You're going to end up with quite the problem, or diluted.
Yeah.
Right, not the potency it's supposed to be.
Right.
But another issue that's come up is anti-aging potions and
Yeah,
creams and stuff.
right.
There's phony Botox that people are ordering and getting delivered.
That's scary.
That's very scary. There's and all sorts of herbal remedies and that to fight aging. Really, seniors need to watch out for any emails or mail solicitations for things that promise miraculous cures. You don't have to go back to your doctor. We're going to cure this, we're going to cure that, we're going to stop these aging processes. Things that are outside of the normal. If you've got a type of cancer that is incurable and you're getting ads from people that say, buy our product, we can cure it. Just stop a minute and have somebody else look at it, because it's as likely to be fraudulent as anything else. I mean, the diet industry is full of that kind of stuff, but we consider people who are obese to not be vulnerable to abuse, so we're all held to a different standard. But our elders, it's interesting with that age of population. I'll call them the Depression era. They are trusting. They expect businesses to be doing right, and they're polite. Okay, they don't want. I've seen my dad do this. They don't want to hang up on somebody.
Yeah.
So they get that phone call. They're going to sit and listen. Oh, thank you, thank you. It's very hard for them to just put down the phone and walk away,
Yes.
or be rude, or say no, thank you.
Well, I think that's a human characteristic to some degree.
Certainly.
But you're right that the telemarketers take advantage
They
of
take advantage of
that
that
convention.
characteristic.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple of things, again, this is going on everywhere. It's going on all over the place. We're not going to get ahead of the scam artists, right? The law enforcement is always going to be several steps behind in trying to find them and catch up with them and that kind of thing. So the question is, what can we do to help protect our family members and our elders from these scams? We can have estate planning documents in place. That's fabulous. Have somebody who is an agent under power of attorney for finance. Have somebody who's doing financial things with you, so you're not just having the elder do them alone. These are all great, but what can we do short of that? A lot of these elders that are being scammed have capacity. They're not incapacitated. They're just getting scammed, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not a matter of somebody stepping in to act for them. It's a matter of teaching them some new responses. Make sure they know it's okay to say no thank you. Make sure they know it's okay to say, you can call me back about this, but I'm not making a decision right now. There's nothing rude about saying, I'm not making a decision right now. There's nothing rude about asking for written documentation to substantiate. Never let them send somebody to your house to pick up the money.
Oh. Okay.
Because there's no way to trace it. And that's one of the other pieces about elder financial abuse that the criminals are counting on, is the elders are embarrassed that they were scammed, so they don't want to share that information. And they're not going to remember enough details for them to actually prosecute the criminals. And that's a lot of what happens, is there's a delay. The elder sends the money in to pay for something, realizes a couple months later, hey, I never received that package I ordered. By the time they go to report it, they don't have enough details or enough information to be able, for the law enforcement to be able to actually sustain a case against people. So that's how a lot of it goes under the radar. So it is really important that the elders know that they can talk to their family members and other people about these calls that they get or these emails that they get, and just to be alert. I advise a lot of my clients to have their phones put on the do not call list, the federal and the state do not call list, so that they won't receive these solicitations.
The problem is that it doesn't stop political or charities. And
Those are huge fraud areas for fraud right there, especially
Yeah.
after a large disaster.
Yeah.
You'll have lots of criminals elements with phony charities calling to solicit donations right there on the spot.
Right. And, I guess the main thing that occurs to me is, when we talk about email, they may get emails every day. And so how are you going to check on, basically you have to tell them is, just delete them all or something. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. The important thing is to never give out your personal information. Even if it's coming from a request is coming from a financial institution that you deal with, don't respond to an email by providing personal financial information. If you have your checking account with Bank of America, for example, and you get an email from Bank of America saying you need to update your account information. We've frozen your account because we're concerned about some activity, and you need to update your password and re-give us your social security number, blah, 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 blah. Do not respond to that email. Go down to the Bank of America branch.
Yeah.
With a printout of the email if you can, but go down to the Bank of America branch and deal with it in person.
Yeah.
If it's for real, they'll deal with you in person right there. Most likely it's not for real.
Yeah.
Generally it's not.
They call it phishing, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And yes, and so it can look like it's coming from your bank. It can have the logo on it. It can have everything.
I get hundreds of emails a day, and I will tell you, I personally, it's so easy to delete the ones from financial institutions that I'm not involved in, because I know immediately that they're phishing. But if it's from a financial institution where I do have funds or that I am working with, I actually look at each one of those emails before I delete it. I check the actual name of the sender of the email to make sure that see whether it came from my bank or not. But then I don't follow up by replying to the email or providing information via email. I pick up the phone or I go down to the bank.
Okay, I think we're about out of time. Yeah. So where can people get more information? We got about a minute.
Where can they get more information? You can work with the local Council on Aging to get more information. You can get information from AARP. They have good resources. The IRS has good resources. And there are a number of other senior organizations that do have good resources for helping you to prevent these crimes.
Okay. Naomi, thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure having you, folks. I hope we've given you some good things to think about. And we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.